I should have known something was wrong when my mother didn't even look at me during my graduation ceremony. She was too busy fussing over my half-sister Sadie's hair, making sure every strand was perfect for the photos she wasn't even supposed to be in. This was my day, at least it was supposed to be. My name is Tessa and I graduated high school yesterday. Today I'm sitting in the campus library, staring at an email that's making my blood run cold. Dear Miss Whitmore, we confirm receipt of your withdrawal from fall admission. I read the words again and again, my hands shaking. I never sent a withdrawal letter to Stanford. This was my dream, the escape plan I'd been working toward for the past 4 years. Something wasn't adding up. There you are. Sadie's voice cut through my thoughts. She was leaning against the doorframe, twirling her perfectly styled hair. Mom's looking everywhere for you. We're about to head to Rosetta's for my early graduation celebration lunch. My graduation was yesterday, I said, my voice flat. Yours isn't for another year. Sadie shrugged, examining her manicured nails. Dad says it's never too early to celebrate success. Besides, I already got accepted to Yale. Early admission. She paused, her lips curving into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Oh wait, weren't you supposed to hear back from Stanford by now? The way she said it, something in her tone made my stomach drop. I glanced back at the email, then at her phone clutched in her hand. Suddenly, the pieces started falling into place. You did this, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a punch to the gut. You hacked my email and withdrew my application. Sadie's expression didn't change, but her eyes glittered. Prove it. Before I could respond, my mother's voice echoed through the library. Girls, what's taking so long? Grant's waiting in the car. I watched as Sadie transformed, her face softening into the perfect daughter mask she wore so well. Coming, Mom. I found her. My mother appeared behind Sadie, looking immaculate as always in her designer dress. Tessa, why are you still in here? Everyone's waiting. And please tell me you're not wearing those ratty jeans to lunch. I looked down at my favorite pair of worn jeans, suddenly feeling shabby and small. I'm not feeling well, I lied. I think I'll skip lunch. Don't be ridiculous, my mother said, but her attention was already back on Sadie, adjusting her daughter's collar. This is a family celebration. For what? The words burst out before I could stop them. My graduation was yesterday, and none of you even stayed for the whole ceremony. Oh, honey, my mother sighed, that familiar look of disappointment crossing her face. We had to leave early for Sadie's Yale interview prep. You know how important that was. Besides, you're just going to beauty school now, right? I froze. I hadn't told anyone about applying to beauty school. It was my backup plan, something I'd only researched in secret. Sadie's smirk told me everything I needed to know. She'd been monitoring my emails for longer than I'd realized. Actually, I said, standing up and gathering my things, I'm not feeling well at all. I think I need to go lie down. Suit yourself, my mother said, already turning away. Come on, Sadie, darling. We don't want to keep your father waiting. I watched them leave, Sadie throwing one last triumphant glance over her shoulder. As their footsteps faded, I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person who had always been in my corner. Grandma Ruth? It's Tessa. I need your help. My voice cracked slightly. Something's happened and I don't know what to do. Come over, sweetheart, my grandmother's warm voice replied. And bring those college emails with you. We'll figure this out together. As I gathered my things to leave, I caught sight of my reflection in the library window. For the first time in years, I didn't see the shadow of my perfect half-sister or my mother's disappointment. I saw someone who was done being pushed around. Sadie might think she'd won, but she had no idea what she'd just started. Grandma Ruth's kitchen always smelled like vanilla and hope. As I sat at her worn oak table, clutching a mug of tea, I could almost pretend everything was normal. But the Stanford withdrawal email glaring from my phone screen said otherwise. That girl has gone too far this time, Ruth said, her usually gentle voice sharp with anger. She was already dialing her phone. I'm calling Marla. Your aunt needs to know about this. I reached across the table and caught her wrist. Please don't. Not yet. The last thing I needed was another family drama. I need to handle this myself. Ruth set the phone down but fixed me with that knowing look she'd perfected over 70 years. And how exactly do you plan to do that, sweetheart? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed across the screen, followed by a string of messages. Where are you? Grant is furious you missed lunch. Come home now. I switched the phone off and pushed it away. I can't go back there tonight. Of course you can't, Ruth said, already heading to the spare bedroom. You'll stay here. But tomorrow you need a plan. She was right. I needed more than just a plan. I needed leverage. Sadie had been playing this game longer than me, and she'd gotten sloppy. There had to be evidence of what she'd done. The next morning, I walked into our kitchen to find Grant and Mom having one of their quiet conversations that always seemed to be about me. They fell silent when I entered. "Nice of you to finally join us," Grant said, not looking up from his tablet. "Your mother tells me you've been making some interesting career choices." I grabbed an apple from the counter, trying to keep my voice steady. "I haven't made any choices yet." "Beauty school," he scoffed. "That's hardly a career. Besides, we've already discussed your role in the family business." No, they'd discussed it. I'd just been told. "Actually," I said, "I wanted to talk about my Stanford application." The kitchen went quiet. Too quiet. Mom's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "Oh, that reminds me." Sadie breezed in, perfectly timed as always. "Dad, remember that investment opportunity one told you about? The one through Chad's father's firm?" Grant's face lit up, the way it never did for me. "The tech startup? Have they opened up spots for early investors?" "They have," Sadie smiled, shooting me a quick glance. "But we should discuss it privately. You know how these things are." I watched as she led Grant away, effectively shutting down any conversation about Stanford. But not before I caught a glimpse of something on her phone's screen. An email draft with a familiar header. "Tessa," Mom said, finally acknowledging me. "About yesterday." "Save it," I cut her off. "I need to get ready for work." "Work?" She blinked. "What work?" "My shift at Mel's Diner starts in an hour." I hadn't planned to tell her, but suddenly I wanted her to know. "I've been working there for 3 weeks. Her face crumpled into that familiar look of disappointment. "A diner? What will people think? They might think I'm responsible. Independent." I met her eyes. "Like Sadie." Mom's expression hardened. "Don't start with that jealousy again. Your sister, half-sister, works hard for everything she gets. Maybe if you showed half her initiative." I laughed, and the sound surprised us both. "You have no idea what Sadie's capable of, do you?" "What's that supposed to mean?" But I was already heading upstairs. I had a shift to get to, and more importantly, I had a plan forming. Sadie wasn't the only one who could access emails, and I had a feeling that draft I'd glimpsed on her phone would be very interesting to Grant if he knew what his perfect daughter was really planning with Chad's father's firm. As I changed into my diner uniform, I heard Sadie's laughter floating up from Grant's study. She thought she had everyone fooled. But she'd forgotten one thing. I'd been watching her tricks for years. And now it was my turn to play. The thing about working at a diner is you hear everything. People forget you're there, like you're just part of the furniture. That's how I overheard Chad Miller bragging to his friends about the foolproof investment scheme he and Sadie were planning. I was wiping down their table when Chad's words made me freeze. "Grant Alden won't know what hit him," Chad laughed, not noticing me. "Sadie's got him wrapped around her finger. One signature from Daddy Dearest, and we're set." My hand tightened around the rag. Before I could hear more, Mel called me from the kitchen. "Tessa, your grandmother's on the phone. Says it's urgent. Ruth never called me at work." Something was wrong. "Sweetheart," her voice was tight with worry. "Sadie's here. She's telling your mother some pretty serious stories about you." My stomach dropped. "What kind of stories?" "She's saying you've been stealing from Grant's office. That you're trying to sabotage her Yale acceptance." "Tessa, she has screenshots." Of course she did. Sadie never made a move without backup. "I'll be right there," I said, already untying my apron. When I pulled up to our house, Aunt Marla's car was in the driveway. Great. Sadie had called in the whole cavalry. Inside, they were waiting in the living room like some kind of intervention. Mom was crying, actually crying, while Sadie sat beside her, the perfect picture of concern. Grant stood by the fireplace, his face stormy. Aunt Marla looked uncertain, glancing between everyone. "Show her," Sadie said softly, handing her phone to Grant. He thrust it at me. On the screen was an email draft, one I'd supposedly written, detailing plans to hack into his company's accounts. It was dated the same day as my Stanford withdrawal. "I didn't write that," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. "It's from your email account," Grant said. "Just like the Stanford withdrawal." Which I also didn't write. I looked at Mom, pleading. "You have to believe me. Sadie's setting me up." "Oh, here we go again," Sadie sighed. "Always blaming me for your mistakes." "Mistakes?" I laughed, the sound harsh and unfamiliar. "Like how you and Chad are planning to scam Grant out of his investment money?" The room went silent. Sadie's face flickered for just a moment before she recovered. "What is she talking about?" Grant demanded. "She's lying," Sadie said quickly. She's just jealous because Chad asked me to prom instead of her. I heard him at the diner, I pressed on. Ask him about the foolproof investment scheme you two cooked up. Enough. Mom stood up, mascara streaking her cheeks. Tessa, how dare you make up such horrible lies about your sister? Half-sister, I corrected automatically. See. Sadie's eyes welled with perfect tears. She's always trying to divide our family. First the stealing, now these accusations. Aunt Marla finally spoke up. Maybe we should all take a breath. No, Grant cut her off. I want to know what's really going on. Tessa, if you can't prove these accusations, check his investment portfolio, I said. Look for any new tech startups linked to Richard Miller's firm. Grant's face changed. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving rapidly. Sadie stood up suddenly. Daddy, you don't have to. Sit down, he snapped, and for the first time, I saw real fear in Sadie's eyes. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. I looked up to find Sadie staring at me, her mask finally cracking. Behind the perfect makeup and practiced tears, I saw something ugly and desperate. I have to go, I said, backing toward the door. My shift isn't over. Tessa, wait. Aunt Marla called, but I was already gone. In my car, my hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. I'd finally pushed back, but this wasn't over. Sadie wouldn't let it be. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ruth. Come stay with me tonight. We need to talk about your beauty school application. I think I can help. I started the car, watching Sadie's silhouette in the living room window. She might have the family fooled, but she'd forgotten something important about me. I had nothing left to lose. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I found myself standing in Ruth's bathroom, surrounded by mannequin heads with half-finished hairstyles. My hands were cramping from hours of practice, but I couldn't stop. Not when I was finally getting somewhere. You're getting better, Ruth said from the doorway, watching me work. That French braid actually looks French this time. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with Grant's name. I'd been dodging his calls since the investment scheme revelation, but this time something made me answer. Where are the files? His voice was ice cold. What files? Don't play dumb, Tessa. The backup drives from my home office are missing. Sadie says she saw you in there last night. I gripped the edge of the sink. I haven't been home in 3 weeks. You know that. Then explain why your fingerprints are all over my desk. My old house key. The one I'd forgotten to return. Sadie must have. Check your security cameras, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Conveniently disabled last night. Along with Sadie's phone tracking app. Of course they were. I could almost admire how thorough she was being. Grant, think about it. Why would I? Because you're desperate, he cut in. Working at that diner, living with your grandmother. You're not exactly making good life choices. The mannequin head toppled as I spun around, nearly knocking over my carefully organized styling tools. At least I'm not the one being scammed by my own daughter. We've investigated Chad's investment proposal. Everything checks out. You're just trying to cause trouble, like always. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. Have you actually met Richard Miller? Chad's father? Or just seen the paperwork Sadie showed you? The silence on the other end told me everything. You have until tomorrow to return the files, he said finally. Or I'm calling the police. The line went dead. I looked up to find Ruth watching me, her face tight with worry. I heard, she said quietly. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Sadie. Meet me at Riverside Park. 1 hour. Come alone or the drives go public. I have to go, I said, already grabbing my jacket. Ruth caught my arm. Tessa, wait. There's something you should know about the trust fund your father left you. What trust fund? The one Lila's been managing since he died. You're supposed to get access when you turn 21. The world tilted sideways. Mom told me there wasn't any money left. Ruth's expression hardened. There's plenty left. Nearly $500,000. I've been trying to find the right time to tell you. My phone buzzed again. Sadie, tick-tock. I have to deal with this first, I said, heading for the door. But we're not done talking about the trust fund. Be careful, Ruth called after me. That girl fights dirty. She had no idea. At the park, Sadie was waiting by the river, looking perfectly put together as always. The missing drives sat on the bench beside her. You know, she said conversationally, I almost admire how hard you're trying. Beauty school, the diner job. It's pathetically ambitious. Where are the real drives, Sadie? She smiled. These are the real drives. But the files? Those were uploaded days ago. Insurance, you know? Against what? Against you ruining everything. Her smile vanished. Did you really think you could turn Dad against me? I'm his real daughter. You're stealing from him. I'm securing my future. Unlike you, I have plans bigger than cutting hair in some strip mall. Using Chad's fake investment scheme? Sadie's laugh was sharp. Chad, please. He's just the face of the operation. This was my idea. All of it, including your Stanford rejection. I stepped closer. Why? What did I ever do to you? You existed, she said simply. Always there, with your sad eyes and your dead dad's trust fund. Making Mom feel guilty. Making everything complicated. The truth hit me like a physical blow. You know about the trust fund? Of course I do. Mom's been investing it in Dad's company for years. My company soon. She stood, brushing off her designer jeans. So here's the deal, walk away. From the house, the family, all of it. Or these files show everyone exactly what kind of person you really are. I stared at my half-sister, finally seeing her clearly. You really think you've won, don't you? Her smile was almost pitying. Haven't I? But as I watched her walk away, I thought about Ruth's revelation about the trust fund, about everything I'd learned working at the diner. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning. It's about surviving long enough to tell the truth. The box arrived on Ruth's doorstep the morning after my confrontation with Sadie. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a complete professional hairstyling kit. Scissors that caught the light like diamonds. Brushes with perfect bristles. Everything I'd been saving for but couldn't yet afford. Open it, Ruth urged, holding out an envelope. Read the note first. My hands shook as I unfolded the paper. For when you're ready to build your own future. Love, Aunt Marla. Before I could process this, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We need to talk about the trust fund. Come home. Now. Ruth touched my shoulder. You don't have to go. But I did. Because for once, I had leverage. The house looked different somehow, smaller maybe. Mom was waiting in the kitchen. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the shadows under her eyes. Grant sat beside her, his laptop open to what looked like banking records. Where's Sadie? I asked. At Yale, Mom said quickly. Touring the campus. Really? Because I just saw her car at Chad Miller's house. Grant's head snapped up. What? Never mind that. Mom cut in. We need to discuss your father's trust fund. You mean the one you've been funneling into Grant's company? The words came out sharp, precise. The one you told me didn't exist? Mom's face went white. Who told you? Does it matter? I pulled out my phone, showing them the banking records Ruth had helped me find. What matters is it's illegal. And I have proof. Grant stood up so fast his chair toppled. Are these the files you stole? I didn't steal anything. But Sadie did. I met his eyes. Check your security footage again. The real footage, not whatever she showed you. Check the timestamps. This is ridiculous, Mom said, but her voice wavered. Sadie would never. Like she'd never hack my Stanford application? Or set up a fake investment scheme with Chad. Grant's face darkened. What investment scheme? Before I could answer, the front door slammed. Sadie stormed in, her Yale sweater wrinkled, mascara smeared. What did you do? She demanded, waving her phone. Chad just called. His father's backing out of the deal. The room went silent. Grant turned to her slowly. What deal, Sadie? She froze, realizing her mistake. For a moment, I saw panic flash across her face. Then her mask slipped back into place. Tessa's lying, she said smoothly. She's just jealous because... Stop. Grant's voice was quiet, dangerous. Show me your phone. Daddy. Now. As Sadie handed over her phone, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear in her eyes. I should go, I said, picking up my bag. But first, I turned to Mom. I want my trust fund transferred to my name. All of it. Or I go to the police with proof of embezzlement. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. Try me. I walked out, leaving chaos behind me. Through the window, I could hear Grant's voice rising, Sadie's protests, Mom's sobs. Back at Ruth's, I found her in the garden, tending her roses. She looked up as I approached. How did it go? I sat beside her, feeling the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. I think I just burned every bridge I had left. Sometimes, Ruth said, pruning a dead branch, bridges need to burn so you can build better ones. My phone buzzed again. A series of texts from Sadie. You're dead to this family. Hope you're happy now. You have no idea what you've started. I switched off my phone and picked up the hairstyling kit Aunt Marla had sent. The scissors felt right in my hand, like they'd been waiting for me. Want to be my first official client? I asked Ruth. She smiled, touching her silver hair. I thought you'd never ask. As I began setting up my supplies, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different, stronger maybe, or just more certain. Sadie was right about one thing. She had no idea what she'd started. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's future. It's about finally building your own. The first rock crashed through Ruth's front window at midnight. The second one had a note attached. Leave town or worse. I knew who sent them without reading the signature. Ruth insisted on calling the police, but they just took notes and left, saying there wasn't enough evidence. Of course there wasn't. Sadie never left evidence. The next morning, I found Grant's prized Aston Martin parked in Ruth's driveway, its pristine silver paint now decorated with long, deliberate scratches. My house key was stuck in the driver's door. I didn't do this. I told the officers who showed up 20 minutes later. But Grant and Mom were already there, Sadie crying perfectly timed tears beside them. Security footage shows someone with your build, Grant said, his voice cold. Using your key. That's impossible. I was inside all night with. With me, Ruth interrupted, stepping forward. Tessa never left the house. The cameras don't lie, Sadie sniffled. Just like she didn't lie about destroying my Yale acceptance. I spun toward her. What? The admission office called this morning, Mom said, not meeting my eyes. Someone sent them evidence that Sadie cheated on her SATs. They've rescinded her acceptance. The pieces clicked together too late. I should have known Sadie wouldn't go down without taking everyone with her. Press charges, Sadie urged Grant, wiping away tears that looked almost real. She's obviously unstable. Grant pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. Wait, Ruth said. If you press charges, I'll have to tell them about the trust fund. About where that money really went. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Fine, Grant finally said. But I want her gone. Today. If I see her near our house or my car again, I'm calling the police. Our house. I laughed, the sound brittle. I grew up there. That was my father's. Your father is dead, Mom cut in. And you're no longer welcome in our home. The words hit harder than any rock through a window. Lila, Ruth gasped, but Mom was already turning away, leading Sadie to their car. Grant stayed behind. One more thing, he said, handing me an envelope. Cease and desist letter from my lawyers. Stay away from my family, my business, and especially my daughter. She's not your daughter, I shot back. She's a con artist who's bleeding you dry. The only person causing problems here is you. He glanced at Ruth's broken window. Clean up your act, Tessa. Before someone gets hurt. After they left, Ruth found me in the garden, staring at nothing. We'll fight this, she said. I have savings. We can get a lawyer. Don't. My voice sounded strange, distant. Sadie won't stop until she's destroyed everything. Then we'll start over. Together. But even as she said it, I saw Ruth press a hand to her chest, her breathing labored. The stress was getting to her. Her heart couldn't take much more. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Karma's a bitch. So am I. S. Below it was a link to a social media post going viral in our community. Pictures of Grant's car, security footage stills of someone who looked just like me, and a story about the unstable daughter who couldn't handle her sister's success. The comments were already rolling in. Always knew there was something off about her. Poor Sadie, having to deal with such a toxic sister. Lock her up before she really hurt someone. I deleted the app, but the damage was done. My reputation, my future, my family, Sadie had taken everything. I have to leave, I said quietly. Tessa, no. Look at your window, Ruth. Look at what she did to Grant's car. Next time it could be worse. It could be you. I'm not afraid of her. But I am. The admission hurt more than Mom's rejection. I'm afraid of what she'll do next. Of what I might do to stop her. Ruth took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Then we'll leave together. Start fresh somewhere else. I looked at my grandmother, my last real family, and made the hardest decision of my life. No, I said. I have to do this alone. Because sometimes protecting the people you love means letting them go. And sometimes revenge means walking away. At least, that's what I kept telling myself as I packed my bags, leaving everything I loved behind. 6 months after I left town, Aunt Marla's call brought me back. Ruth had died in her sleep, peaceful and quick, they said. I missed the funeral. Sadie's restraining order made sure of that. But today, standing in Ruth's lawyer's office, none of that mattered. She left you everything, the lawyer said, sliding the papers across his desk. The house, her savings, and this. He handed me an envelope, Ruth's familiar handwriting spelling out my name. Before I could open it, the door burst open. Sadie stormed in, followed by Mom and Grant. This is ridiculous, Sadie snapped. She's mentally unstable. There's no way Grandma Ruth meant to. She wasn't your grandmother, I said quietly, finding strength in the weight of Ruth's letter in my hands. Miss Alden, the lawyer interrupted. This meeting is private. Private? Grant stepped forward. After what she did to my car. To my company. I looked up sharply. What happened to your company? The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken accusations. Sadie's face had gone pale, her designer clothes suddenly looking cheaper, worn. The investment scheme, I realized. It wasn't just Chad's father, was it? How many fake investors did you create, Sadie? Shut up, she hissed. The SEC is investigating, Grant said, his voice hollow. We've lost everything. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. We had to sell the house. I opened Ruth's letter, needing her words more than ever. As I read, my hands began to shake. All these years, I whispered. She was gathering evidence. About the trust fund, about Sadie's schemes, everything. I looked at my half-sister. She knew what you were doing before any of us. Sadie lunged for the letter, but I was faster. You can't prove anything. Actually, the lawyer cleared his throat. Mrs. Whitmore left quite extensive documentation, including emails between Miss Alden and various fake investment accounts. You're lying, Sadie's voice cracked. Daddy, tell them. Enough. Grant's shout made us all jump. Haven't you done enough damage? Sadie's mask finally cracked. I did it for us. For our family. No, I said, standing up. You did it for yourself. Just like you sabotaged my Stanford application. Just like you framed me for vandalizing Grant's car. You have no idea what it's like, she spat. Being perfect all the time. Never making mistakes. While you got to be the tragic victim everyone felt sorry for. Sorry for? I laughed. You took everything from me. And now I have nothing. Tears streaked her makeup. So congratulations. You won. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and felt something unexpected. Pity. This wasn't about winning, I said, gathering Ruth's papers. It was about surviving you. What are you going to do? Mom asked, speaking for the first time. Press charges. I thought about Ruth, about revenge, about the cost of hatred. No, I said finally. I'm going to open a salon. In Ruth's house. I turned to Sadie. And you're going to stay away from me, or these documents go to the SEC. You can't. I can. And I will. I headed for the door, then paused. You know what the difference is between us, Sadie? I never needed to destroy you to prove my worth. Outside, the spring air felt clean, new. Ruth's letter was warm in my pocket, filled with love and one final gift. The truth that would keep Sadie out of my life forever. My phone buzzed, a text from the beauty school I'd applied to. Application accepted. I smiled, thinking of Ruth's styling tools waiting at home. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's world. It's about building your own, stronger than before. Behind me, I could hear Sadie's sobs, Mom's attempts at comfort, Grant's heavy silence. But for the first time, their drama felt distant, unimportant. I had a salon to open, a life to build, and finally, the power to make it happen on my own terms. 1 year after Ruth's death, I stood in front of my salon mirror, watching the morning light stream through newly installed windows. The sign outside read Ruth's Grace, a tribute to the woman who made it all possible. The bell chimed. Through the reflection, I saw Mom standing in the doorway, looking smaller, somehow less certain. We're not open yet, I said, continuing to arrange my styling tools. I know. She clutched her purse like a shield. I saw the article about you in the local paper. Young entrepreneur transforms historic home into thriving business. I turned, really looking at her for the first time in months. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by department store basics. Sadie's downfall had affected them all. What do you want, Mom? Sadie's in therapy, she said abruptly. Grant's filed for divorce. Everything's. She trailed off. Falling apart? She nodded, tears threatening. I found this in our old house, while we were moving out. She held out a worn envelope. It's from your father. My hands shook as I took it. Inside was a faded photograph, me at 5, sitting in his salon chair, playing with his styling tools. On the back, he'd written, "My little artist following in my footsteps." I never told you, Mom said softly. But the salon was his dream too. Before the cancer. She stopped, composing herself. I was wrong, Tessa. About everything. The bell chimed again. Aunt Marla walked in, carrying a box of old styling magazines. She froze when she saw Mom. I should go, Mom said quickly. Stay. The word surprised us both. I could use help organizing the magazine collection. If you want. As they sorted through the boxes, I opened the final letter from Ruth, the one I'd found hidden in her styling kit. Dearest Tessa, by now you've probably figured out why I kept such detailed records of Sadie's schemes. But that wasn't my real gift to you. Your father left you more than just a trust fund. He left you his talent, his dream. I saw it every time you picked up those scissors. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting free. A text lit up my phone. Sadie, for the first time since the lawyer's office. I'm sorry, it read. Nothing more. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges stay burned. The morning sun caught the salon's new sign, casting warm shadows across the floor. Mom and Marla's quiet conversation mixed with the rustle of magazines, the gentle hum of hair dryers warming up. First clients in 15 minutes, I announced, straightening my work apron. Either help set up or head out. Mom stood uncertainly, then reached for a broom. Marla smiled, continuing to organize magazines. I looked at my reflection one last time. Not a victim, not a revenge seeker, just a woman building something new from the ashes of what was lost. Ruth was right. The best revenge wasn't exposing Sadie's schemes or watching my family's perfect facade crumble. It wasn't even succeeding despite their doubts. The best revenge was discovering I never needed revenge at all. I just needed to find my own path. The bell chimed again, my first client of the day. I picked up my scissors, feeling their familiar weight. In the mirror, I caught a glimpse of something in Mom's expression, pride maybe or regret. Perhaps both. But I wasn't doing this for her, or for Sadie, or even for Ruth anymore. I was doing it for that little girl in the photograph, playing with her father's styling tools, dreaming of creating something beautiful. Welcome to Ruth's Grace, I said to my client, my voice strong and sure. What are we creating today? Behind me, the past lingered in shadows, Sadie's schemes, Mom's neglect, all the pain and betrayal. But ahead lay something brighter. A future built not on revenge or resentment, but on the simple joy of following my own dreams. Sometimes that's the greatest victory of all.